Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, yes, my setup is different. Maybe the quality of the videos are slightly worse, but that's because your boy is on vacation. I did have some pre-recorded videos ready, but of course, they eventually are going to run out. So we are going to have to record some while I'm on vacation, but it is what it is. There might be a little bit of background noise as I am outside in this very, very beautiful area. Still in the hotel, but it's like this nice patio area with a bunch of trees and a bunch of different balconies and sectors you can enter. Very unique. I never really experienced it. It's kind of like I'm in a big garden, but a custom garden where you can just sit and chill and do other things. But yeah. Anyways, listen, the information in this video is still going to be valid. And of course, if you want the fastest updates and a portfolio review and much more, then highly recommend joining the Discord community. We also do have the community, or we do have a link for the Discord for everybody. Of course, the private sectors are still, closed off to people that pay, but there's an open chat and there's other things you can still benefit from. So highly recommend, even just joining the free Discord. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, right? Let's talk about Zebec, right? Let's talk about Zebec, because last time we talked about this coin, it had to make a choice, okay? Last time we talked about it, it had to make a choice, and practically we could see that there was a support building up to the upside, but there was also resistance going to the downside. There was resistance going to the downside, so we can see that it had to make a choice, and then it did make a choice, right? It did, but you see, boom, 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 consistently going higher, higher lows, but then also lower highs, and eventually broke out. But unfortunately, I think where we really left off was when it started to sell, right? When it was a little bit in a selling phase, I said it had to hold, but it wasn't that likely, because here's the thing, people, right? These types of trend lines usually never hold. Why? Because there's just so much liquidity. We have liquidity here, and here. You got to remember, the markets love to sweep liquidity. They love to take money, right? And we can actually see that happen here. It happened here, right? It took out this zone. I mean, it even took out this liquidity. It didn't reach this, but it took out all of this liquidity here and then slammed lower to take out all of this liquidity here. So it's just classic manipulation from the markets. But you know what? Seeing your coin get manipulated is actually such a good feeling, because if your coin is not getting manipulated, and ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, your project is good. Your project is good as dead, okay? I think I'm wording that wrong, but your coin's practically dead if it's not getting manipulated in a good way, because that means the market makers are not getting involved. There's not whales getting involved. There's not other players getting involved. So manipulation is good. We can see if we go on a 4-hour time frame, right? We did have a little bit of a support that failed. Boom, right? And we can see we have been kind of just creating lower highs consistently. Yeah, you could have debated that, this was a lower high and then this broke out, but then we just broke right below anyways. So mini fake out perhaps, and we can see we were just retesting off of this previous support that turned into resistance, and now we're slowly selling off, okay? We are slowly but surely selling off, and I'd be really, really concerned, people, okay? I would, because these markets, they're just showing bearish signs, if I'm being honest, right? Bitcoin is just showing bearish signs. The only type of way we get some type of lifeline is if we do see a burst in momentum to the upside, okay? Like, I'm talking about a big momentum shift, something like this, where we were just kind of going sideways, selling off a little bit, and all of a sudden Bitcoin went from 103K to 106.5, right? I need to see some type of big pump, 3, 4, 5,000 to the upside, close strong, have a little bit, just small minor pullback, and then just continue, right? Because this happens, that means something like Zebec will do good. That means altcoins will start doing good. But until then, it is just looking like we are going to correct lower and lower. right? The next destination for us is going to be roughly, let's see, 0.0033, okay? I believe it's Alt H, there we go. So this is the next zone, because this is going to be on top of this last high, but is also pretty much at the bottom of this daily candle or this daily wick. But then we also have some type of resistance here, right? So something like in this zone generally is where I'm looking for bounce up, or for us to bounce up from here. Now, of course, just because we go into this zone, that doesn't mean necessarily we're going to bounce up 100%. You have to remember that about these zones, that it doesn't always mean a reversal. It doesn't mean always a strong bounce up, right? If Bitcoin sells off like 10K, for example, then we're going to smash through the zone. The next zone, though, ladies and gentlemen, right, if we actually move this blue, is boom, right over here, right over here. Now, I don't think necessarily we are going to go to this zone, but in the events that we do, that means Bitcoin has probably gone down to $92,000 at least to fill up the gap, okay? Because if you guys don't know, there's a gap at $92,000, and it's just not ideal, right? It's really not ideal, because we are going to be getting wrecked with altcoins if that's the case, if we do fill this gap now, okay? If we fill this gap after, like once this cycle's over and we know bear season's starting and Bitcoin's coming back down from, like, let's just say 160K, and we know it's gonna be crashing over the next year or something, then it's like, I'll be looking out for that 92K gap. It would probably even go lower down to 90K, maybe even 85K. But as of right now, that gap, there's a good chance it's gonna get filled, because like I said, the markets don't look healthy. Which means something like Zebec is going to suffer, right? Especially that Zebec did have a nice, huge rally, a very, very huge rally within a 2 to 3 week span, right? We can see pretty much the reversal started on the 14th, and we peaked at the 30th. So pretty much 2 weeks, right? 16 days. And we could just see it's just been choppy and it's been selling off. But in terms of fundamental correction, right, to fill up all of this imbalance, we would be going back to the zone. And unfortunately, this coin has done this previously, right? It has done this previously. It has done it quicker there, though, I will say, right? Because 1, 2, 3, we're in the third week of sell candles. Usually by the third week, right, 1, 2, 3, we're already back to the very bottom. 1, 2 weeks, we just killed all the gains. 1 week practically killed all the big pumps. We had a nice big pump. 2 weeks later, we're back to the bottoms. So, it is looking a little better. That is the optimistic thing, right? But I do kind of believe, once we go below the zone, there's a high chance of the 0.003 bounce. But if we just slam through, man, this is the next zone I'm looking for, right? I will be buying more of this coin. I did sell pretty much all my positions for that 3.5 times. Right, we called it out in the private community. We bought it on the 10th, which was roughly somewhere like over here. And then I did sell when we were roughly over here. I know I made like 3.5 times my money. And then, pretty much, put some in other cryptos, and still looking to reinvest some as prices have been dropping. Since prices have been dropping. And for me, it's like one of those things, like if I make 3.5 times my money, and even if I make 10x on another coin, that's 35x. And it's like, sure, from the position I bought, for Zebec and its future, sure, it can still give me 35x from this very bottom, right, where I bought. But, there's a higher probability in doing what I'm doing. Because even, let's say my next project's actually just 20 or 30x, right, that I invest in, all of a sudden, it's 3.5 times 20. It's 70x, right? It's 70x, not 35x. It's 70x. If I do 30x on top of the 3.5x, dude, that's a lot. That's over 100x from my initial money I put in. So like I said, it's better to just split it up sometimes. Most of my crypto portfolio is still from the A to Z plan, but that's just how it is. We can check coin market cap very quickly before we finish this video. We can look at the volume, right? We can look at the volume. Boom, Zebec network. We are ranked 141. We do have 323 million market cap. Volume fairly low, but I mean, the whole market has been low in volume. So, not too worried. Would still like a better ratio, but 17 million volume. And yeah, overall solid, 88% community sentiment. And yeah, budget tighter, sell that toy, do what you can to acquire Zebec at these prices. If you're considering lower, maybe average in. Hell yeah. Obviously, I'm not financial advice. This guy's not financial advice. You got to know what you're doing. All right, we just present the data. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy. Your boy's on vacation. These videos are not going to be super hype, super this, super that. Don't really care. And yeah, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys did enjoy. The information is still just as valid. And yeah, love you all so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.